New York City landlords are upset after the city fined them more than $370,000 when a squatter moved into the house and refused to leave. Meanwhile, the police wouldn't evict the person and they got protections from the COVID-19 pandemic. I'm Tony, and this is Real Estate Investing and Landlord News. All right, so I have a horrible story for you coming out of New York City. Now, obviously, New York had some of the strongest tenant protections when all this nonsense with the pandemic was going on, right? And in this case, this squatter actually benefited from these protections and was allowed to stay in a property that they had no right to be in. So the landlords, right, they called the police on this guy, tried to get this guy removed. The police refused to do anything and said it was a civil matter. And only recently were they able to finally get an eviction order for this person after nearly 3 years of being in their property. But that isn't the worst part. The worst part is that the city continued to fine these landlords more and more as the squatters completely destroyed the property and refused to do anything with it, okay? They were just basically, sitting there and, racking up fines, and now they want the landlord to pay. They want the landlord to pay more than $370,000. It's insane. Okay, for squatters that they refuse to remove. They're saying that, hey, the landlord should, that has a responsibility to keep the property up. Like, so the landlord has to keep a property up for squatters who should have never been there in the first place? Oh, give me a break, okay? This is ridiculous, and I hope they get this ridiculous fines thrown out. I mean, it's already bad enough that they're going to have to spend tens of thousands of dollars just fixing the place from the destruction that the squatters have done to it. But now you're going to fine them an ungodly sum of money. I mean, this is pure bureaucratic nightmare. Okay, if they just did their jobs in the first place, this wouldn't have even been a situation. But unfortunately, in a place like New York, they hate property owners, they hate landlords, and they think that we are the cause of all the problems. These tenants, they're just poor, innocent people. Well, when you have a tenant who takes advantage of a situation, they know the rules, they know what they can get away with, and they will do everything possible to make sure that they don't ever have to leave. Okay, so yeah, these tenants knew what they were doing, and the landlord got screwed. So before I get into the article, go ahead, hit the like, subscribe button, and leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think, okay? Do you think a landlord should have to pay hundreds of thousands of dollars in fines because of damage that squatters, not tenants, squatters actually did to the property? I don't, okay? I think that's ridiculous, and I think that's stupid. And I think the city should just throw those fines out. And man, I just can't even believe that they fined them like that in the first place when they were the ones refusing to remove the tenants. Okay, what did they want? Oh, we're sending repairmen by to fix this place up with a whole bunch of crazy people who don't live there? That doesn't make any sense. Okay, so anyway, let's get into this article because, this is a crazy story. This article is coming from the New York Post, and it says, New York City homeowners say they can't get rid of convicted sex abuser now facing an attempted murder charge. Yeah, and the squatter who was living in there is a convicted sex offender, and he's facing an attempted murder charge. Are you kidding me? Anyway, let's get into the article. A convicted pervert facing an attempted murder charge can add illegal landlord to his rap sheet, according to a pair of fed-up Brooklyn homeowners who say the violent career criminal took over their investment properties and filled them with squatters. Mohammed Chowdhury and Boyson Lorik have been forced to deal with the city's backlogged housing court to oust those living in the crumbling trio of Neptune Avenue homes, despite being threatened and assaulted by the occupants and repeated calls to the NYPD, according to a lawsuit. Meanwhile, they could face more than $370,000 in fines from the city buildings department for illegal occupancy and other violations, records show. So yeah, the city's going to fine them $370,000 for illegal occupancy. Like, we didn't rent the place out to all these squatters, okay? They moved in. We didn't do that, so why are you fining us? Oh, yeah, because we're the property owners. What were we supposed to do? When we called the police, you didn't do anything. So this is your fault. It's a big mess. It's a very dangerous situation, a frustrated Chowdhury told the Post. The pair, who make up 35 NEP LLC, bought 3506, 3508, and 3514 Neptune Avenue in May 2019 for $1.3 million as an investment, they said. At the time, Peter Fonseca, 45, was living in the garage behind 3508 and refusing to leave, the landlord said in court papers. Fonseca was arrested in October 2019 for sexual abuse of a minor, court records show. The arrest enabled the landlords to lock up the homes. Then, COVID-19 shutdowns had the owners stranded out of town for months in 2020 and left the homes vulnerable. When the owners returned in September 2020, they found Fonseca back, along with several strangers who claimed Fonseca was their landlord. Now, this is awful, okay? This is how squatters end up in landlords' properties. Simply put, you don't visit your property for a long period of time, and that allows people to move in and, they're just going to, either steal from your property or they might just move in and just live there. And that's what happened in this case. So we have a former tenant who was lawfully evicted, it looks like back in 2019 after his arrest/conviction for sexual abuse of a minor. That is ridiculous. And, I can't say that I have any sympathy for this guy for getting evicted. He's a piece of garbage, and I don't give a crap if he has to live on the street, okay? Sexual abuse of a minor, that is horrible, And so they lawfully evicted this guy back in 2019, and then the whole pandemic hit. They didn't go check on these properties, right? And I'll have to blame the landlords here, okay? So I'm not gonna let these guys escape and say, hey, none of this is your fault. You should have been at least going by these properties once a week, at least, okay? You can't leave these properties empty for months and then expect to go back and everything be okay. The worst case scenario is what you got right now. The best case scenario, maybe somebody vandalized it or broke in it and stole stuff out of it, okay? So some of the blame is on you, not all of it, okay? I'll put most of the blame on this nightmare tenant, right? But you should have been checking on this property or, at least fixing it up. Now, there was no reason why you couldn't have still gotten the places rent ready and been renting them out during the pandemic. Okay, you guys were just gone for months and not doing anything with it, and that is the ultimate result. That's why I say, I don't like leaving my properties empty for very long. Valuable lesson. I don't know if they own other properties or if this is their first, rental property investment, but this is a horrible lesson to learn if this is your first investment or if you only own a few others and don't have a lot of landlord experience. You have no business here. These buildings belong to us now, Fonseca allegedly told Lorick, according to the litigation. Chowdhury, 70, and Lorick, 75, charged Fonseca and his tenants have threatened and assaulted them. There have been 6 arrests, including for domestic assault and drug possession in or in front of 3508 between May of 2019 and November 3rd, and nearly 150 calls to 911 regarding 3508 and 3514 Neptune for the same time period, police said. The NYPD has declined to clear the squatters, referring Chowdhury and Lorick to civil court after Fonseca claimed to have been living there for months. Meanwhile, the buildings department slapped the real landlords with $37,000 in penalties, and they face a possible additional $370,000 charge. So yeah, they already have been slapped with $37,000 in penalties and face an additional $370,000. That's insane. So, we're talking about over $400,000 total is what they are being fined and penalized for all this garbage that the squatter is doing. And the squatter, the police say, and I understand the police are only doing their job. Okay, they have to follow the rules that were put in place for them as well. And in New York City, a person could just simply claim that they, are a tenant and that they are there lawfully, and the police can't do anything and say it's a civil matter. Okay, they don't have to produce a lease, I guess. I mean, improving it, and they, the landlords, they don't sound like they're very experienced, honestly, because they could have probably pulled out the previous eviction from 2019 and been like, hey, this is his eviction order from 2019. This guy's a squatter. He's not supposed to be here lawfully. Oh, man. You know, it scares me thinking that stuff like this happens to good people who just want to operate their rental property businesses. So, you know, I hope that they don't have to pay this fine. An occupant of one of the garbage-strewn homes declined to comment Thursday. On November 1st, a Brooklyn housing court judge finally sided with Chowdhury and Lurik, agreeing that Fonseca should be booted later this month. The pair are now suing the city in Brooklyn Supreme Court, seeking a court order to get the violations paused and for either the NYPD or DOB agents to accompany them while they try to access the homes. Yeah, and they definitely need the police to be there as well for their own safety. We're talking about two guys in their 70s, okay? They just can't go down to the house, even if they've been granted, you know, the ability to go back in there and remove this tenant. They need somebody, you know, for their own safety, because it sounds like, you know, this guy here, he is a career criminal. There's been just 150 police calls down to the property now. It's not safe to go down there to try to remove this squatter on your own. Okay, it doesn't matter what the court says, and it's awful that it took the housing court, all the way until just a few days ago, November 1st, before they decided to get rid of this awful squatter tenant, right? So I wanted to know what was the city saying, why the landlords had to be fined all this money, right? And it says right here, owners have a legal responsibility to keep their property safe, said a buildings department spokesman who noted 35 NEP LLC will have a chance to argue its case at upcoming appearances in front of Oath, or the Office of Administrative Trials and Hearings. The owners of these properties will be able to present a defense at the upcoming violation hearings, which will be considered by a court hearing officer when adjudicating the violations. DOB has not yet been served with this lawsuit. We will review the suit once we have been served, the spokesman says. So yeah, they will have the opportunity to fight the fines and fight the penalties and all that, right? But it should have never come to that, okay? And that is what the problem I have is. They put all of the blame on the landlord for what these squatters are doing when they refuse to remove the squatters in the first place, right? And this is a horrible lesson to learn. I hope that other landlords, when they're watching my videos, right, they realize, hey, you know, when we have a property that's sitting empty like this, you know, we got to check on it. We got to make sure that everything is secured as best as possible. If we can, we need to get somebody up in that property ASAP, because this sort of situation can happen anywhere. And, you know, I just don't want to hear about small landlords who are getting mistreated and abused like this.